your guiding light through times of trouble, confusion, murkiness, tumult, despair, chaos, decay, and yes, even the good times. And we go to Lafayette, Louisiana. This is Richard. Thank you for the call, sir.
Yes, sir. Question about the Roanoke speech. Obama was talking about the great system that created all these millionaires and whatnot, but he ran on change. What's going on here?
Okay, you talking about the Roanoke speech?
Right, yes, sir.
Grab audio soundbite 13. Let's listen. I think you may be onto something, but I want to listen to it again just to make sure.
If you've been successful, you didn't get there on your own.
Okay.
You didn't get there on your own. I'm always struck by people who think, well, it must be because I was just so smart. There are a lot of smart people out there. It must be because I worked harder than everybody else. Let me tell you something. There are a whole bunch of hard-working people out there. If you were successful, somebody along the line gave you some help. There was a great teacher somewhere in your life. Somebody helped to create this unbelievable American system that we had that allowed you to thrive.
Stop the
Somebody
tape.
invested in roads and...
That must be what you're talking about, right? There was somebody helped to create this unbelievable American. That's what you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
And so your question is, how can this be such a wonderful system if he wants to change it?
Yes, sir.
Well, you're not supposed to ask questions like... See, he doesn't... This soundbite is filled with problems for Obama. You have just cited another one. He is running. He says we got to transform the country. It's unjust and it's unfair. In fact, what's the latest? He's talking the Urban League. And he talked about our union is less than perfect, but it is perfectible. And that whole notion of perfectible is rooted again in liberalism or in the left, perfectible. It's this whole stupid utopian pursuit, nature that they have. We're less than perfect, but we are perfectible. So there's inherent problems in the founding. We are flawed. This country was unjust and immoral from the days of its founding, but with the right people in charge, we can perfect it. And so he gets caught here. Now he has to talk about what a great system we have. Unbelievable American system. What he's doing is simply trying to relate to people who think of the country in ways that he doesn't. He's lying to them. He doesn't think that this is an unbelievable America. Well, actually, he doesn't say great. He does say unbelievable, which is open to however you want to train. It could be unbelievable. I can't believe how bad this is. I can't believe how flawed and imperfect this country is. But he was clearly trying to tell you, we got a great country out here. Somebody made this country great and they left you out of it. Somebody made a great country here and they left you behind. Somebody made a great country and they did it on your back. And I'm here to take care of you. And this is getting under their skin. Now, what are they working on now? Their second response ad. Richard, thank you. Chris in Memphis. Great to have you on the program, sir. Hello.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Limbaugh.
You bet.
I was calling about what you were speaking about in the last segment, and I watched a documentary not too long ago on the Pruitt-Igoe housing complex in St. Louis.
I have. Yes, I remember Pruitt-Igoe.
I'm sure you do.
Bed-Stuy. Think Bed-Stuy.
The entire documentary they started it with the beginning, speaking of the creation of the suburb and how St. Louis couldn't expand its borders and so is losing tax revenue. And they blamed the failure of the complex on the fact that they didn't have enough tax revenue to keep it up and things like that. And there was a lot of undertones of white racism.
Yeah, white flight, it was called. White flight to the suburbs and places like Pruitt-Igoe, which is a federal housing project, it became a slum. It became a slum. And so they are trying to blame that on the flight from the city to suburb. This is exactly what Stanley Kurtz is talking about in his book. Isn't it amazing? I bring this up, and you remember having seen this documentary.
Yeah, I watched it just a few weeks ago, actually, and I mean, it was everything that they said in that documentary is what it sounds like his book is about.
Did you?
They really tried to paint the picture that.
Now, what did you when you watched the documentary? You remember what channel it was on?
It was on Netflix.
Netflix.
Yeah, and they usually most of the documentaries on Netflix are pretty liberal.
Yeah. So you had to order this.
No, it was a watch instantly on Netflix.
It was a watch.
We got it hooked up through the Roku device to our television, so kind of like Apple TV, but a different brand.
Yeah, but still, you had to choose it. You had to be hunting for documentaries, right?
Well, I was just cruising through. It was late one night. My wife was sick, and the baby was asleep, so I was just cruising through, and I saw it, and it looked interesting, so I checked it out.
Okay, your wife was sick, the baby was asleep, and you thought, I'm going to watch a documentary.
Yeah, I guess I can be kind of boring sometimes.
No, I didn't. No. There's no. Don't do that. I'm fascinated by what people choose to do to relax or focus themselves, whatever. So,
well, I like anything of a political nature.
Yeah.
And I said,
Okay. Well, so what was your reaction when you saw this, Chris? When you saw the forget what you've heard today. What was your reaction when you saw them try to construct the blame for Pruitt-Igoe?
It blew my mind because you have all these people, testimony from people that actually live there, and they would admit to how terrible the conditions were because of the people that lived in the place, but then they would blame it on, well, we didn't have the tax revenue for the maintenance.
Exactly.
Yeah. So even though they admit to destroying it, they blame it on somebody else.
It is exactly right. For those of you in New York, Pruitt-Igoe, just think Bed-Stuy. It was just a mess of a housing project, and the whole excuse for these housing projects failing, not the whole, but one of the big excuses was white flight, suburbia, tax base fleeing, tax revenue fleeing, and of course that turned the people who live there into lives of crime. It was never their fault. And I'm telling you, this is what Kurtz's book is about. One of the premises of his book is that Obama and his Zelenskyites harbor a profound resentment because of suburbia, suburban flight, white flight. They do think there's a racist component or a racial component to suburbia. So people see a housing project going up, they go, oh, God, I don't want to live anywhere near that, and they leave. And Obama says, that's why these cities are in bad shape, because racists decided they didn't want to live next to people who didn't look like them. This is what Alinsky teaches the community organizers to use as a rallying cry when you're organizing people to agitate them, to get them all worked up. Well, no, I know, but see, Snerdley is yelling at me. Obama lives in a sweet spot next to Resco in the he doesn't live in the hood. But see, liberals, Snerdley, you're forgetting. The rules are for everybody else. They're the elites. They're entitled to not have to live by the rules they require everybody else to live by. That's one of the perks of being in the elites is you get. It was like being in the Politburo. You get your DACA. You don't live in Moscow with the human debris. You got your place outside. It's the way liberals, elitists everywhere have always been. But that's still the point here is that in running a campaign, if you tell people who live in, forget that they're Republicans or Democrats. If you can run a campaign, if the swing voters in the swing states are genuinely, if it's true that it's the suburban voter where this election is going to turn on, then it makes sense to try to tell them the truth, to convince them, look, the President of the United States is a man who believes that this country is in the trouble it's in because you live in suburbia. Not that you're a Republican, not because you're this or that, But you abandoned this. You're selfish. You took your tax revenue and your job and your small business or whatever, and you fled, and you left disaster behind. So the point of Kurtz's book is to educate, inform the suburbanite swing voters exactly how they are in the crosshairs. It is their wealth Obama wants to come get. It is their lives he wants to transform. He holds them responsible. And not just Obama, but the Democrat Party. Them responsible for the plight of the inner city public schools. It wouldn't be that way if you hadn't left and taken your kids. Whatever, folks. If that would persuade them, that's fine with me. And we've got a little assistance here. You got Obama talking about it, Roanoke, Virginia, on July 13th. You didn't build that. You didn't make that happen. Somebody made the roads. So he's talking to here. That's who he's talking about. And we'll be back. Don't go away.